So hello and welcome to the 7th episode of the Sports News Blitz, brought to you by the Sports News Blitz website. My name is Matthew Dudley and I'm back again with my co-host Sam. Say hello, Sam.
Hello, nice to be back as always.
And today we're joined by the incredible BBC Radio Manchester's very own Emily Brobyn? Emily Brobyn, I'm so sorry.
Everybody gets it wrong.
So thank you very much for joining us. Lovely to have you.
You're welcome. Anytime. My pleasure.
So to start with, what we like to do is kind of get to know you a little bit better on a more personal level, just before we start delving into questions to do with sport and media and all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And a question we've had suggested to us, which seems to be doing quite well at the moment, is when you've been reporting, whether it's been to a football ground, rugby ground, cricket ground, wherever, and as a fan, where have you found the best food in a stadium?
Oh, wow. I did not expect that. I'm going to be really biased and say City at the moment, because it's not inside the stadium. It's around the concourse area, like around the stadium footprint. And they invite loads of different vendors to have stalls there. And there is one, can I say a brand?
If you'd like, yeah, it's no problem.
I'm not on the BBC now, so I can. It's Northern Soul grilled cheese, and they do like the best cheese toasties, but they do loaded fries, loaded with all kinds of different things. And they had like a chicken with ranch the other day that I had, and I absolutely love that. But I'm up for suggestions with that. But like I'd like to go somewhere and have like maybe a curry. Is that a thing? I've been to loads and loads of football grounds, obviously, across the country, but I'd love to go there. I think, is it Birmingham that do a curry? I've not been to Birmingham for years, and I fancy that.
I mean, personally, I couldn't tell you.
No.
We've been told previously, Jake Garner said, I think Wolverhampton Wanderers did a really good diner when he went. And we've been told by Guy Mowbray that Chelsea does the best food for staff. Have we had Chelsea or Wolves?
Yeah, City have got pick and mix in when you go inside the press area. They have like a big pick and mix stand with the best selection of pick and mix as well. You can just help yourself, you can get whatever you want. And the food is great as well in the press area there, yeah.
I think City's a great shop. I went 2 years ago now to watch City. I was sat in the away end, of course. And I was definitely hungover, and I remember getting a chicken wrap, and it was sorting me right out. It was truly delicious.
It's not bad, but I like something a bit different. I mean, I'm up for slopping a curry down there.
Well, if we hear of one in the future that does a curry, we'll make sure to let you know, so you can put that one on the bucket list. So we'll dive into some questions now. We've obviously you're a big Manchester City fan and not afraid to say it, and that's great. How do you think City will do this season?
Oh, it's so hard to predict, even more so now with the Rodri news. But I can't hide behind that, because the other day I said on our show that Arsenal fans shouldn't hide behind the fact that Odegaard was missing, and you shouldn't use one player as an excuse because it's a team. But Pep Guardiola loves a small squad of players, and I think that he will come up with solutions. He has to, obviously. I think Kovacic as well, he started the season so strongly for us at Stamford Bridge. He looked fantastic. He's done really well. We're still unbeaten. But there is that element, isn't it, that City always fight on all four fronts, and they always tend to go really deep into all four competitions as well. So it's whether we can sustain that moving forward. I know a lot of people won't like the fact that I'm a City fan. I know that the club, obviously, at the moment is quite unpopular for reasons off the pitch more so than anything else. But, I was a City fan back in the 90s, and I have always been a City fan since then. I signed up for the club because I went to Main Road and it was an imperfect stadium, when I got there and they were getting beat. And I don't know what it was about the club, but I just fell in love with the imperfections in the club. I was a bit of like, not a loner at school. I had my own little gang, but at the time when I fell in love with football, I just saw things in the club that I loved that was really endearing to me, that we were living in the shadow of United, and United were on a different spectrum to us. And I thought, you know what, Little City is for me. And it's kind of grown into something that is so unrecognisable to the club that I fell in love with now. And it's unbelievable. But yeah, I was there from the start. I've not signed up since 2008. So I'm a big fan like that. I don't know how the season will go now. I'd love to do 5 in a row, but I'm just grateful to just be there. And I know it sounds really basic and cheesy, but because I didn't sign up for the silverware and the trophies, whatever happens will be. There is that expectation now. We've set that standard. We are one of the best teams in the world. We do have some of the best players in the world as well, but I'm a bit more of an old school fan in the sense that anything after 40 points is a bonus for me. We just used to want to survive in the Premier League, having suffered relegations and promotions, enjoy promotions, but yeah, just see how it pans out. I mean, it'll be fascinating with all the charges, what happens there, but we don't know what's going to happen. It's a fact. We don't know. But what I do know is that I want it to be resolved because I'm sick to death of it being used as a stick to beat me with and fans, and it's not really our fault.
I love that. That's such a good story. I think the fact that I love meeting City fans and they've been fans from before the money, and you just hear about that because I'm a Brighton fan. So, and we're still new to the Premier League, but I still find that I'm watching all the results being I'm just hoping to not get relegated still. And people asking me if I'm we'll be happy with Champions League football or something, and I'm just happy to stay in the Premier League at this point. But I was going to ask you, what would you say is your favorite memory as a City fan? Then is it maybe a bit more niche than Aguero? I can't lie, but
yeah, that's so hard because there have been so many incredible moments over the years. I think one of my favorite memories maybe was before the Aguero moment. So Newcastle away, it was the last away game of the season, and we went up there, and I think they were pushing for Europe at the time, but Newcastle and United have always had this really intense rivalry after that season with Kevin Keegan and Sir Alex going for the title. And going up there, and I love Newcastle. I love the people. I think they're some of the best people. It's a brilliant night out, which I absolutely love as well. And just to go up there and Yaya Toure scoring 2 huge goals, it was such a tense game, but that set us up then for going on and winning the trophy. And all the Newcastle fans, even though that they were going for Europe, were all celebrating with us afterwards because obviously of the dislike for United. And that is one of the big memories that stands out. If you weren't going to ask me about Aguero and the goal, because obviously that was amazing. And, we all ran on the pitch and we couldn't believe that day. The FA Cup semi-final when we beat United 1-0, it was my birthday. And I felt like that was the game where the tide turned when we went to Wembley that day. And not many City fans were that confident that day. And I don't know whether it was my birthday and I'd had a couple to drink. And I was just like, this is the moment where it changes. This is the moment where the tide turns. And we went on and we ripped the banner down that they had up with the trophy ticker. I think it was on 35 years at the time. Well, that came down that season with the FA Cup win. And then even further back, Gillingham in 1999, the Wembley playoff final. To be stood in the concourse at 2-0 down and crying to my dad and saying to my dad was telling me to be all right because he's not as big a blue as me. And I said, nah, Dad, you don't understand because they've just won the treble and we can't get out of Division 2. And can you imagine the stick? United winning the treble and City can't even beat Gillingham to get out of Division 2. And everything happened. Kevin Horlock scored and then Paul Dickov, and the penalty shootout was unbelievable. And I truly believe that if we wouldn't have won that day, who knows, the club might not even be here. I think Paul Dickov actually saved the club that day. So there's so many stories, away day stories, because I love me away days with all my friends as well as, doing my job. But I could tell you 1,000 of them and I won't, but they're the memories. And of course, the treble and being in Istanbul to complete that. It was just, I still can't believe we did that. I still can't comprehend that moment to beat United in the cup final on the way to doing it.
Did you go and watch it live in Istanbul?
Yeah. And that's another thing, because I think a lot of what football is friendships and relationships with the family and your friends that you go and watch the games with and share these memories with. And we have such a tight bond of friends. And that day, like the night before, the Friday night in Nevzadi Street, the long street with all the City fans partying, and it was just unbelievable. And to judge that moment, the Rodri goal, it was such a tense game, and the saves towards the end from Ederson, and people had kind of slated Ederson, said that, he's not a shot stopper, he's just good at distribution. Well, watch that game back, because without Ederson that night, we don't win the treble.
Oh, that's fantastic! It's so nice to hear you so passionate about these stories as well. It's really lovely, I think, for us to hear.
Oh, thank you.
Looking,
too passionate.
No such thing.
Because I've never really met City fans, so whenever you meet a City fan and hear all about the ins and outs of it, it makes it seem more of like a club rather than a massive dominating.
People think that we are literally a well-oiled machine. Pardon the pun. But there are fans behind this. There are fans who have been there and loyal and dedicated, and people just think it's really funny off the cuff to throw 115 in our faces, or empty had, or rubbish atmosphere. But behind the club, thousands and thousands of loyal fans who've been there from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, through the turmoil, through the relegations. And we are there, we're loyal, we're dedicated. And much like Rodri saying, complaining about there being too many games, well, we pay for every single game, and we always go far in competition. So we find the money, we do that, we put in the hard yards. And I think sometimes certain fans of clubs forget that there are fans who are really loyal, like every other club, but they just see, I think a lot of it stems from jealousy. But
would you say you're getting close to becoming the biggest club in Manchester, or is that still a few years?
I don't think size matters in that respect. I just think that it is what it is, and Manchester United will always be that club, won't they? There's no denying that, and there's no taking away from that. I never would. I have a pop because obviously we've got the rub of the green at the moment, but football comes in cycles. They'll have their day in the sunshine again, and then I'll cop it again. But we went through a lot of grief, and it's nice that now we're in the sunshine and we're enjoying that reward. And yeah, I mean, I do think it will come to an end. It's Pep's last season at the moment, remember. I hope he'll extend. That would be amazing, because I think that what's interesting now with Pep Guardiola is that he always had that rivalry with Jurgen Klopp. And it was always that kind of fierce rivalry, toe-to-toe in that season, where it was separated by a point difference. Johnny Stones off the line was the difference. And then Aguero with the ball about a millimetre over at Turf Moor to score the goal there. And the finest margins won the league that season. And I think now, this rivalry now with Mikel Arteta, obviously they're friends because he used to be together at City, but this rivalry, will that be enough to kind of keep him at City and think, actually, I like this, let's play along with this for a little bit. Be interesting to see how it plays out.
I live with two United fans, so you're doing me a massive favour by giving me something to hold over them, to be honest.
I mean, long may it continue, hopefully, but I mean, will Eric Ten Hag be in a job at Christmas? Will it be Ruud van Nistelrooy? Who knows?
You spoke then just briefly on his relationship with Mikel Arteta. And obviously the Arsenal-Manchester City game just gone was a bit fiery, to say the least, at the end. Obviously you want the 5th title in a row, and it'd be exceptional for Manchester City to do so. Does a game where your closest rivals in the league title in Arsenal, who lead for the majority of the game, does that put a bit of concern to your mind, that thinking, oh Christ, this is going to be another really tricky season?
I know, I wish they'd go toe-to-toe with us like Liverpool, to be honest. I think I'll get pelters for it, but I just think I'd have that little bit more respect if they did. And I understand that they've got an incredible defence, but I think it's a little bit naive to think that they can defend for 40 minutes against the champions of England and get away with it. I used to love, I don't know if I did love Liverpool and City, actually, because that's that season when it was a point difference. I had sleepless nights. It was that close, genuinely. And it was horrendous, but there was a certain weird respect as well for the fact that they would bring the game to us. And I get that some teams don't have the quality to be able to do that. Okay, so you come into the Etihad Stadium, and if you play open, expansive football that we love to play into, you'll get annihilated 9 times out of 10. But it's a test of Arsenal for them to do that. And yeah, they were 2-1 ahead, but do you really think that you can defend a lead against us like that? I just think it was a bit naive to just sit back and invite that pressure for 45 minutes. And some might say if they did open up, then we would have won the game, and they got no points. So, yeah, I don't know. I do think they've closed the gap significantly, though, with the players that they've bought, with the investments they've made. Declan Rice, obviously, a huge difference, and the defence is incredible. It's going to be fascinating to see where it goes. But I do think the loss of Rodri will be potentially a decisive factor. But Pep Guardiola normally loves these curveballs. He sees it as a challenge. So let's see what he comes up with in his football lab.
I can't know. As a neutral, I think the fact it's starting to get a bit more fiery between the two clubs is just brilliant to watch. I thought Haaland he's class, isn't he? He's so funny. The little things he says and does. Like when he threw the ball at Gabriel's head, I just thought that was hilarious. But you did concede 2 goals to them, and I was just wondering if that did cause you any concern or anything like that.
Yeah, I was terrified. I was there thinking our record's going to go. Absolutely, because that record at the Etihad Stadium, we're so proud of it, and people say to us, well, it went against Real Madrid technically. But I mean, technically it doesn't count, does it? Because it's penalties. But, we've been unbeaten since Brentford back in 2022 at the Etihad Stadium. It's an incredible record. And I was sat there with sat stood kind of vibe, because I was just stressed out my head. Come on, the ball kept just landing to Ruben Diaz on the edge of the box, and thinking that's not the right player, and it was so frustrating pinging it around. But Jack, with that just instinct to just take the ball that a little bit quicker, I think it just literally caught Arsenal off guard. And in that, it's the finest margins. But you are right. I was a little bit scared. I was, and I do think in a way we got away with one, but they're a great team. I would never take that away from Arsenal. And, I'm not going to go on like a granny, but back in the day, they used to absolutely annihilate us. It's a different city now, make no mistake, but I remember at Main Road, we lost 4-1, Thierry Henry, Arsenal era, and we all applauded him off at full time. What can you do watching players like that? I used to stand there and think, God, if I could only dream of watching players like that play for my football club. Look at the skill. It was a joy to watch getting beat 4-1 by a team like that, and now we're kind of baying for blood and there's no joy in Arsenal anymore.
You'll have to excuse the pun, but this is how I've written it down, and I'm going to keep it in. Haaland seems a bit of a shoe-in for the Golden Boot. Is anybody else going to catch him, do you think?
No.
No?
No, they're not.
Can anybody catch him? Can.
Only touch. I haven't got anyone to touch. I mean, if he gets injured, which pray and hope and pray. And if he does, then obviously we've won the league with a false 9, because we didn't sign a backup striker when Julian Alvarez went to Atletico Madrid in the summer. But he is unbelievable to watch in the flesh. If you've not, I implore you to get a ticket for a game and watch him in the flesh and watch how he works. And just people who say that he doesn't take enough touches in a game, the touches he makes, the movement, the anticipation, his technique. What I love about him the most is his aggression. The facial expressions he pulls at the goalkeepers are terrifying. Sometimes I'll just go and just watch Haaland, because he's fascinating. He is literally a freak of nature. There is nobody else like him in the world, but there's no striker like him in the world. And I know that he will go to Real Madrid, and I don't want to lose him, but I want him to, because you're not comparing him with Messi, because obviously he's a totally different player, different position, but it's the one thing that Messi didn't do, isn't it? I really, really wish Messi would have come to the Premier League. I wanted to see him in the Premier League, but that's a different argument. Erling Haaland should and will go and play in the best leagues in Europe, because he deserves that. He's the best player, the best striker in the world, and just watch him. He's unbelievable, but he will be the Golden Boot unless something happens.
He is brilliant, and I love his character. I just think, again, I touched on it earlier, but his character is just top. It's so funny.
It's great.
It is. I saw some stat earlier that he's only been caught offside 15 times in his entire 2.5 years, at City, which I just think is insane for a team that
the
keeps
antithesis to Gabriel Jesus, by the way.
Exactly, yeah.
Who's born offside.
Do you reckon he'll ever win the Ballon d'Or? And if so, how many?
I mean, I can't hark back to last year. I was heartbroken for him because, yeah, I get the story about Messi, but it was a nostalgia vote, wasn't it? Erling Haaland had come in to the Premier League in his first season. He just absolutely took a sledgehammer to every single record that there was. What is there not to love about that? What is there not to love? Maybe in the future he will. Will it be in a City shirt? Will it be under City? Will it be under Real Madrid? I don't know. But I tell you one thing, if Rodri don't win it this year, I will riot.
It's a bad time for him to get injured. I was going to say, I think if he hadn't got injured, he'd be an absolute shoo-in. But
he will be, though, because it's based on last year. It's not this year.
Always just recency bias in that, isn't it? Wrongly or rightly. I think Rodri deserves it. I agree.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll kind of move on a little bit from Manchester City and more just to more general Premier League. I would quite like to know because you've said you visited loads and loads of grounds, what has been your favourite ground to visit and what ground haven't you visited yet but you're really excited to or really want to?
I love Newcastle. I absolutely, I love going to Newcastle. I love the city. I love the fact that Geordies are just absolutely obsessed with football. They live, sleep, eat, breathe football because they're a one-club city. And it's just a religion for them. Football is their religion. And, St. James's Park is their church. And I don't know if Eddie Howe is their God, but they just absolutely love it. I love going up there. It's always a great time. There's never any nastiness or bitterness or anything like that. It's just a welcoming place to go. And I don't want happy clappy and, oh yeah, welcome to St. James's. Go up all them stairs, you'll be exhausted because you are exhausted. Although I found out last time I went there is a lift, which, yeah, I might be lazy, but it's annoying because I don't know, have you been to St. James's in the away end? Because when you do all the stairs, you get to the top and the concourse is right there. So everybody stood watching you when you get to the top, and you try styling out walking up all them stairs without looking like you need a defibrillator at the top, honestly. But it is my favourite away. I love it. One that I've not been to, I think the only one I've not done is Brentford. And I wouldn't say I'm looking forward to it. It's just I drive past it a lot, going to different grounds. I know where it is. It's just off the road. It's in a bit of a weird place near Earls Court, actually, but I'll tick it off one day. It's just that it's always fallen at a really weird time for me, like midweek and stuff, and it's just not been doable, but I'll do it one day.
I think the Newcastle shout's great. I live with a Newcastle fan, and anyone who hasn't watched a game with a Geordie has to watch a game with a Geordie. It is brilliant. Yeah. The sounds he makes they're not English really, but it is unreal. Have you ever gone to any European games or stadiums that are really memorable?
Oh wow. I mean, obviously I've done the Bernabeu quite a few times, and that's incredible. It's unbelievable. We went last season, and obviously it's had its makeover, so we went in there and we couldn't believe that they actually had heaters on. So at the top inside the roof, they've got heaters, but it was a really warm night and we were all sweating. I was like, can somebody turn the heating off in the Bernabeu, please? It's just too hot. So that is an incredible arena for football. It is a special place. I love Madrid, and it holds very mixed memories because obviously I went that night where there was some late goals and we should have got to Paris to play Liverpool. And it was the late goals that knocked us out, and we looked like we were going to go through towards the end, and that was heartbreaking. It was a real low point, honestly. And they kept us in for 90 minutes after the game. It was horrific. But then I've been there on other nights where it's been a dream, like last season with the incredible goals from Vadiol and Phil Foden. That was unbelievable. But I think one of my favourites was Atletico Madrid, because the taxi driver dropped us off at the wrong end of the stadium, and we had to walk through all the Atletico fans. And Atletico Madrid is Atletico, Diego Simeone, and that was so intimidating. It was, and it kept us in at the end there, and there was all riot horses and riot place. I don't know if you remember the game. It was a 0-0 draw, but it was such a feisty game. Obviously it is because it's Atletico, but I think it was Savic who put a tackle in. Was it on Foden or Grealish? And it all blew up massively, and they had to be separated in the tunnel. Well, that kind of really fueled the atmosphere in the ground, and they were baying for blood, the Atletico fans. So I think I was actually glad to be kept in for my own safety that night. But those nights are so special, going to those European grounds, because like I say, I mean, I never thought I'd ever do that with my team in my wildest dreams, and to do it. And we always do it a weird way as well to keep the cost down. So I don't know if you know, like, rather than paying top bucks for the flights, we go via Ibiza, and we'll have the day in Ibiza, then fly to Madrid. We always make it fun like that. It's just always brilliant. But they're my favourite, the European games.
Yeah, I'm praying Brighton have a few more in the near future. I can't imagine, Matt, you're hoping for too many. You're too hopeful for your club.
No, so Emily, I'm a Notts County fan.
Right.
I don't think we'll be hitting Europe anytime soon.
Listen, you never know what happens in football.
I was just about to say,
you never know.
It's proved.
We could get a pre-season friendly somewhere, but I can't imagine we'll be at the Bernabeu in the near future.
You never know.
When we are, I'll be there.
I remember when Bournemouth and Real Madrid had a pre-season game, and that was incredibly odd. So you never know.
Oh, I love going Bournemouth as well, and the light's gone off here. Is it too dark now? It's gone really dark where I'm sat. Yeah, I do a show with a United fan, and he hates going to Bournemouth's ground. I love it. I absolutely love going to the Vitality. I think it's a great little stadium, and those stadiums as well, full of character and really personable, can sometimes be just as good as the Bernabeu.
Have you ever been to Amex, just out of interest?
Yes, I have. Yeah. I mean, Brighton, I'm planning Brighton at the moment. We've got Brighton coming up. Yeah, I love it.
I'm sure you're looking forward to it more than me, but
there's no parking near it as well, so you have to kind of get the train. You get train ticket with your match ticket, don't you, from Brighton?
Yeah, it's terrible, but
don't poo-poo it. I think we won 4-1 there, so maybe that's why I enjoyed it. Sorry.
I don't go to those. I don't go to the City games. I think that's the one game of the season I just blank out. So.
Oh no, you just don't know though. You can't look at Liverpool and Nottingham Forest. Imagine if you would have been a Nottingham Forest fan that day saying, "Oh, look at our record at Anfield. We've not won here since the 60s." You'd be devastated if you missed that.
No, I will definitely watch it, but it's just I've not got the best memories of it at all.
It has to change. No. You know,
we prefer the other side of the Trent on this podcast.
Exactly.
So you are a freelance broadcaster in your own right. You've worked for pretty much every major news company that there is, and in pretty much every capacity that there is. But at the moment, you seem to be doing quite a lot of BBC Radio Manchester, obviously working in local radio, which is brilliant, something I do myself. Obviously, it's under quite a lot of scrutiny at the moment. A lot of it's changing to a more nationwide sort of approach. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts and what are your experiences with local radio, and how important is it just to the community, do you think?
I think it's vitally important, and it's a dying breed as well. And I think it's so important that local radio stays alive and stays accessible for people, because I worked a show. I mean, I've done a lot here. I've been a producer. I've produced a lot of shows, I think I've produced every show there is here, but I am a presenter as well. But I think I did a show one night that was the night before New Year, and then when the show, it was the late show, so it ticked into midnight, and people were phoning up saying, "Oh, you have a lovely New Year's Eve," and the phone didn't stop ringing from people doing that. Just people who are listening, just saying, "Oh, I just want to let you know that, I'm listening, and have a lovely New Year." And it's the same. It happens a lot at Christmas as well, and it's like that song Radio Gaga by Queen. I sit alone. I don't know the words. My only friend through teenage nights. All we hear is Radio Gaga, because there are people out there who are listening, and you're their best friend. There are people out there, and they tune in and they listen, and you are a friend to them and you're talking to them. That's why when you do radio, you don't go, hey, everybody, because it's not everybody. You're talking to a person. It's a singular thing. You're talking to that listener who could be Dave in Denton, who he relies on you for company every morning, noon and night. And that is why local radio is so important, because you could be literally keeping somebody alive, not to be dramatic, but they're dependent on you. They rely on you to keep them informed, to keep them entertained, just to be a friend, just to hold a hand through the radio and reach out to them and just be there. So it'll be a really sad day if local radio disintegrates even more than it already is. There's a lot of national conglomerates and that's taken over, but I'm a big advocate of banging the drum for local radio and being there for people who need it.
I think that is probably the best way you could advertise and encourage people to listen to the local radio. Is there any way you could just maybe, like, what's the best way people could do to help keep their local radio going? Is it as simple as just listening, or is there more that people could do?
Yeah, listen, interact, let the stations know that you're there. Don't be shy to get involved with local radio, because we punt out for, I do a weekday phone-in show, sports show, Total Sport, and we punt out for calls all the time and people to get involved in. People do it and we love it. And sometimes local radio stations may not get that interactivity. They may not have that reach, but if you kind of have it as a two-way relationship, then that can let the stations know as well that you're there, you're listening, because I don't really believe in radio. I think it's a really old-fashioned way of getting listening figures. I don't think it really reflects listeners. I think it's archaic, really. But yeah, I think it's so important, honestly. It's really important that you let these stations know that you're there and listening, and email in or send old-fashioned letters if you want to. We get letters all the time here from listeners, or pick up the phone, text, anything. Just interact with your local radio station.
Oh, lovely. I think that's really interesting to know how people can support their local stations, because it's a community-wide thing.
Yeah.
Looking at your career then, because like I've kind of mentioned previously, you've done everything there is to name under the sun.
We've rattling them off before, and it took about 5 minutes to get through everything.
Oh, sorry. Some people don't like blowing their own trumpet, but you have, we're in a business where it is literally other people when they get their elbows out, and I don't like to do it. I've stepped in front of people before and gone, she's for the job. I'm a cheerleader. I cheerlead for people. I bang the drum and I'm like, you deserve this job, go for it. And they're like, why don't you go for it? But yeah, it's a real dog-eat-dog industry, so you've got to get your elbows out sometimes. So sorry if you had to read for ages.
No. I was not saying that in a bad way at all. I was saying that in a way we were going, this is amazing.
Thank you.
So kind of before we get into that a little bit, I would like to know, because obviously something would have sparked this interest in you to go into radio. Do you have, or did you have a hero or a figure you looked up to in the industry and you thought, wow, they're doing what I want to do. I want to be like them, or someone who inspires you to do what you do?
I think really going really far back, Helen Chamberlain. So it wasn't radio. So Helen Chamberlain on Soccer AM was huge for women. Obviously, it was kind of a real man's world. And I think there are certain men who still think it should be, which is just ridiculous. I think they belong in Jurassic Park, to be honest with you. And then Gabby Logan, just such a representative on a big stage of being a really kind of strong, powerful woman who's knowledgeable and confident. And those two together gave me hope of the little girl who used to write match reports when she was 13 years old and didn't really know why, because she just loved City and loved writing. I was a writer at first, so I just used to sit and write these little match reports and be obsessed with my football club and not even know where it would go. And then knowing that there are women like that who are advocates and who are trailblazers, I thought, wow, maybe, just maybe, I don't know what I might be, I don't know where I might go, but what could it possibly lead to? So it was, yeah, they were the definite sparks, if you like, the heroes for me.
Have you ever been lucky enough to meet either of them?
I've interviewed Gabby. Yeah, and somebody's walked past and the lights come back on now. I'm probably like too bright now. The BBC, they're on a timer. And there's a great story really quickly behind the Gabby thing. I was at university doing sports journalism at UCLan in central Lancashire because I tried getting into the industry without a degree, banging and knocking on doors. I'll do anything. I work for free whenever you want. No, you've got to get a degree. No, bang, door slams. Come back when you got a degree. And I was thinking, I was 24 years old by this point. I wasn't 18. All right, I'll go and get the degree and I'll prove you wrong. So went to uni, was doing the degree. And then when you get given assignments at uni, I'd always think I'd sit there and be dead ambitious and think I'd always shoot for the moon. I think, right, somebody gave me an assignment and went, I want Gabby Logan for this. So I was writing for Football Fancast at the time, voluntary. And I wrote an article. No, I didn't write. No, I wrote to Gabby's PA. So I'd find these contacts, sent a polite email to Gabby's PA. And I said, look, I'd love to interview Gabby. I'm doing this course. I've got a slight bit of experience, not a lot, but, I'll come down, do it whenever she wants, whenever it suits her. And it was really polite. No, sorry, no, but she's dead busy. And I thought, not taking that. So then I wrote an article on Gabby and how amazing she was and how she is a trailblazer, why she's so important for women. Football Fancast published it. And then I sent it to Gabby Logan's PA and I said, I've written this for Gabby. I'm really hoping that she'll reconsider. I'll come down to London, Television Centre, anytime you want, bending over backwards. And I got the PA came back and said, Gabby loved the article. She'd be delighted if you came down before she does Inside Sport and come into television studio, Television Centre. And yeah, so I went down and interviewed her and got a really good mark for uni.
That sounds brilliant.
But I always did that. For every assignment, I'd always sit there and think, who can I interview? So I think for one of them, I interviewed Sylvain Diston at City, or Gary Owen, who used to play for City. We did a package on the Munich air disaster and we interviewed him. We got Vox Pops outside Old Trafford. But I think that being ambitious you've got to be realistic, but what is the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is no. And if you're really polite, then you can always challenge that and prove a reason why they should let you have that opportunity. But being ambitious and setting yourself apart from the rest, you've got to have your USP. Why are they choosing you over that massive line and crowd of people? You've got to be different in some way. Otherwise, you're getting nowhere.
Oh, that's a really good bit of advice at the end as well. Thank you. Within the media and your job role as a freelance broadcaster, what has been your best or most memorable, your favourite, the experience you've had, which you're going to take with you and think that's a highlight for me?
Oh my, wow. That is such a hard question because there's been moments where every day I come in and I pinch myself that I'm doing the show that I'm doing. Every day I think I grew up listening to BBC Radio Manchester. I grew up on match nights, driving to Main Road and the Etihad, listening to this phone-in show at 6 till 7. And I'm doing it while people are driving to the match. Every day I come in and do the show like it's my last show because you just don't know when it might be. But I genuinely pinch myself every day. I think TNT Sports I think it was BT Sport back then, before the Champions League final, they asked me to do a feature with them. So that was really unbelievable because when we got inside the ground at Istanbul, my partner got his phone out and actually put the BT Sport on and we watched it live inside the arena in Istanbul. And that was a really kind of, oh my, and then my phone blew up after it. And just things like that, just a bit like Sky Sports before the FA Cup final, going on with Ben Ransom and these huge games and moments like that. I think the weirdest moment I've ever had, and it was really hard, was we were on air when the Queen died. We were doing our show. And we had to come in and do the show when the rumours started that day about the Queen. And me and Gaz were messaging each other and we were saying, I'm not sure what's going to happen. Nothing's confirmed. There was rumours going around that she's ill, but we came into work. And then obviously behind the scenes here, it was very frantic and there was constant meetings with news editors as to where it was up to with her. And there was rumours going around about timing. So we go on air at 6 o'clock. So as the time was creeping down, our news editor that day says to us, just be careful when you go in there. Don't say anything controversial because you could end up on the front page of the papers. It's like, great, just kind of be really calm about it and not get emotional and worried. And yeah, you just got to be really professional. So we are anyway, obviously, that goes without saying. And then 6 o'clock comes round and we lead with the news. So we look to the newsreader reads the news, but we didn't know if there's any breaking news about it. So no, nothing broke. So Gaz looked at me, I looked at Gaz and was like, it's not happening. It's, she's all right. And then at 6:30, we looked up at the screen at BBC News and the newsreader was there reading the news that she'd actually died. And we didn't know. And we were live on air doing the show. So we looked at each other and then we're buzzing to the producer and we just had to wait for the nod to kind of, in that instance, you put 5 Live on a fader and we just put the fader up for 5 Live, but we're waiting for the nod. So we're in a conversation with City fans. And there is a point there where the fan who's actually contributing to the show could tell you and go, by the way, you're still on radio, but the Queen's died. That's the worst case scenario in radio. You cannot have that happen. So it went on for quite a while. And then obviously somebody came over and screamed and put 5 Live's fader up now, put the fader up now. And then everything went up and that was it. But I think that was a moment for maybe a weird reason that will stay with me forever because you don't expect that to happen at all on a regular day. It just doesn't happen. But the rest of the experiences have been
a great array of different experiences. Obviously, some, a very, very, very massive variation. How have you got any advice for how, because I know I'd struggle to maybe remain professional in moments like that. Have you got any advice for how do you keep cool and just don't do anything out of, do you know what I mean? Just stay very calm.
You have to, because you just have to keep calm and carry on and just be professional. I got really emotional about it, actually. I don't know why. When I saw it, I kind of choked up a little bit, and you just have to kind of be really within yourself and just game head on and focused and just remain professional, because that's all you can do. You have to do it.
You're still working in the media, so I'm sure you did a great job of it.
Yeah, thank you.
That is an absolutely exceptional story. Thank you very much. How, going back to sort of the beginning of your career, which I think it says on your link to 25 years in the media.
Yeah.
So looking to go back to the very big start of that, how did you first get your break in it? Because there's no real job application. You can't apply on Indeed to come and be in the sports media. So how everyone forges their own path. So what was your path that you forged?
I was writing at high school, and writing match reports. Just, I don't know why, for the fun of it. So I was watching City and loved English. And then I used to buy King of the Kippax, which was this really, really big City fanzine at the time. And they had their own little band of writers who used to write articles, really funny articles and anecdotes in it. And I just thought, I wonder if I can just send an article in. It probably is rubbish. It don't make sense. It's probably all, the grammar's rubbish. But I sent it in, and then that's it. Literally, they loved it. And then I wrote for King of the Kippax for years and years and years. Came into BBC Radio Manchester. I think I was 15 when I started applying to the MEN for experience, the Manchester Evening News, and here Radio Manchester when it was at Oxford Road and different places. And I used to go in and sit in on Saturday Sport with Jimmy Wag and just say, if you need any help with anything, let me know. If I can do anything, let me know. And just kind of annoy people, really, which some people don't like, but it's how you get known or kind of recognised or just get a foot through the door. So I know that it's evolved a lot, football media, sports media since, but it's by badgering people like that. And then it got to the point where I needed to go and get my degree. So I went and got my degree. And at the time of being at uni as well, I was doing loads and loads of voluntary work for different people. So I was like a city writer for Mirror Sport Online and Football Fancast. I did loads and loads for them, but everything was voluntary. So then when I graduated, I came out and did Radio Manchester again. I was offered voluntary work at Blue Tuesday, which is a city sports show at the time. So I used to be the voice of interactivity on there. And somebody from City came on the show one day, a lady called Vicky Kloss, who was the head of communications. And afterwards, she took me to one side and said, "You're looking for a job?" And I was like, have you got one? And she said, "Well, I might have a job, yeah. And it might not be quite, doing what you want to do. It's like charities assistant. So getting signed merchandise sent out to fans and charities and raising funds and stuff like that." But I was thinking it's a foot in the door at my football club. And then hopefully, who knows? So I accepted that. So I had to step away from Radio Manchester, which was a real shame. And then my job was a charities assistant, getting loads of signed merchandise from players and managers and stuff. But then they changed it to a journalist as well. So I did both jobs at the same time. So at City, obviously interviewed the players, the managers, and covered the EDS games. And that was amazing. And then, yeah, that changed. And then I kind of fell almost into podcasting and radio. Somebody invited me to do a podcast one day, and I said, no, I'm a writer. I don't do anything on camera like this. I'm really self-conscious normally, believe it or not. And he said, "I think you'd be great. Just do it." And I did it a couple of times. My phone started ringing, and with unknown numbers. "Hi, it's 5 Live. You're Emily, aren't you? Will you come on the breakfast show and talk to us about City?" Or, "Hi, it's such a body. I've got your number through this person." And hi. And my phone has not stopped ringing ever since. And that's how it literally just started by that. And then this started by being a regular caller on this show. And then one night they needed a host. So I came and did a demo because I thought I'd be rubbish. And then they loved it. So then it snowballed really, really quickly. But it's all about who you know and just saying, yeah. But it got to a point where I couldn't do voluntary work anymore and I needed to earn money. And I said, I know my worth now. I've got loads of history behind me. I've got this degree, and together combined, pay me. And never be shy of asking for money if you think you're good enough, because if you're good enough, they'll pay you. So I'm a regular now. I do 5 Live loads for City, and yeah, I do this, and I've got other stuff going on. I'm doing a really big project with Sony at the moment as a researcher for something really exciting that I can't really say a lot about, but I'm juggling a lot of plates, but it's a great place to be in. I'm very, very grateful, but it's hard work and it's perseverance. It is, you've got to just keep at it. Even if 1,000 people say no to you, just think of the one person who might say yeah, and that one person, when that door opens, it's so important.
I think it's brilliant. You've told us so many different stories, and every single one seems to have a multitude of different bits of advice and things we could take from it, especially as aspiring people who want to get into the media and all that. But I was wondering, is there one maybe best bit of advice you've been given or can give us for people who are trying to get into more professional experiences?
I think it's never give up, honestly, because you can be so intimidated by everybody out there. There's 1,000 different podcasts, there's 1,000 different journalists. LinkedIn is full of people like that. Everybody is aspiring and wanting to do the exact same thing as you, but dare to be different. Have something that's just a little bit different about you, a little bit quirky. Or why would somebody say, I want to go with him or I want to go with her? But just work really hard, be dedicated, make contacts. So that's not one piece of advice I'm giving you loads, but make contacts. It's always about who you know as well as what you know. Be knowledgeable, obviously, be well researched. That goes without saying, but make as many contacts as you can. Don't be afraid of sitting up till midnight trawling and finding people's emails and ringing people up and mithering and badgering, because they will give you a chance if you're good enough, or if they like the look of you. But just have your own little USP. That's probably the best advice I was ever given. Make something different about you. I set up a little website. I interviewed loads of different former players and things like that. And even if you've got that where somebody can just go and glimpse at it and just say, it's all right, actually, that's pretty good. She's gone the extra mile. That's what will stand you in the best stead. And don't trample over people. Don't get your out. I don't think you should really get it is really, really dog eat dog, but be nice to people, because people always remember that. Just be really friendly and nice to people, and don't be a dick.
I think that is the second time we've had that sort of advice,
Yeah, I know. I don't mean to swear, but it's the best. It's the best way of putting it. Just be really nice to people. Be helpful. Make tea. But I bring in treats here all the time. I'm the feeder here, but I do it because I'm genuine and I mean it and I'm nice. I'm just being really friendly. I'm just being me. Be yourself. Be authentic. If you're authentic, people will love you. If bring your personality out. There's nothing worse than somebody who's magnolia, beige, monotone. Be full of vibrancy and creative and ideas, and you'll go far. Honestly, you will. But it's hard work. But don't give up. Don't give up. I nearly did, but I'm glad I didn't.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. I don't know if it's a 5 Live thing. We interviewed Charlie Slater. I'm not sure if you know Charlie Slater.
Yeah.
And he gave us almost identical advice, but he used the word numpty. So it was don't be a numpty was his bit of advice.
Sorry, I had to go there with the swearing. Sorry.
No, it's more than fine. But yeah, it's interesting to see how people will say very similar things, and it's like it's clear to see what you actually do need to do to make that way.
Yeah.
But no, I think that kind of draws us to a close. That's been absolutely brilliant. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us at the end, or do you think we've kind of covered all bases?
I mean, I'm really grateful, and I hope that if it helps one person, then it's brilliant. But I miss uni. I think uni shaped me in a lot of ways, and to be the person that I am. I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't all hard work. I mean, I could tell you a bunch of stories, but I don't know if I could get away with it now. But, I had a brilliant time. I made some great friends, and the course was full of lads. There was only about 5 girls on the course, and it is a male-dominated industry, and that's never fazed me. Some of my best mates are guys, and that's just the way of the world nowadays. And if you're good enough, and if you're knowledgeable enough and well-researched enough, then if the argument that they've got is you're a woman, then they look really stupid at the end of the day. And it's sad that we live in a world like that now. But I'm hoping that there is a bit more acceptance when it comes to females in the industry. And I'm not a feminist in that respect, and maybe I should be. Maybe I should bang the drum a bit more. But I know I sit back and let others do it, which is quite passive. But yeah, I'm just grateful for you guys having me, and I hope that you've enjoyed it. I probably rambled on too much. I'm sorry.
That's been a pleasure. So much advice for me and Matt, definitely take away from it. So thank you loads for that.
Yeah. I mean, I could talk all night, but I won't.
No, that has been excellent. Thank you. Well, Emily, thank you ever so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure having you on. I think your passion and your enjoyment, your enthusiasm has really come through, and that's been great I think it's been just genuinely enjoyable, which has been lovely. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, I thought I'd be boring you senseless. I thought you'd be needing, like pills to stay awake or something.
No, not at all. And Sam, of course, thank you ever so much for joining us once again. And that kind of draws us to a close.
Thank you. Honestly, thank you so much. Let me know if you need anything else or anything, just shout.